This Dominate the Diamond show is brought to you by Manscaped. Who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world? Manscaped offers precision, engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. That's right, you heard it right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men that have tried this product. Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, and optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time in the bathroom. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I'm blown away by the performance. The craftsmanship and details on the 4.0 are next level, focusing on intelligent functionality and incredibly comfortable grooming experience to make the me time the best time and enhance your confidence with some nice, smooth boys. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DOMINATE20 at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you later. And that's the ball game. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dominate the Diamond show. We're here at Zone Sports Academy. Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak. We have an awesome lineup of topics for you today. Our mission with this show is to educate coaches, motivate players, and help everybody in the game of baseball and softball, give them the tools to dominate the diamond on and off the field. Today's topics were fueled by the coaches and conversations that we've had throughout the week. And we have some really good questions that have been asked, and we're going to come to you with the answers. So we got a good lineup of questions today, Coach Steve.
We do. We got a couple submitted prior to the show that we're going to start off with today. And we're going to take this first one here to Coach Duke. Coach Tommy asked, in youth baseball and softball, when and how do you ask an umpire for help?
That's a great question. When there's a play on the field of just whether someone is safe or out, it is the coach. I mean, it's the umpires. It's their call, right? Now, if there's a play at first base and you felt that the first baseman pulled their foot off the bag, you go out to the field umpire. You then ask him if he will ask for help. Then what happens is he can ask, or he doesn't have to ask. But most of the time, they'll ask the actual home plate umpire. They'll talk about it. And if the home umpire felt that he pulled his foot, he will then tell the field umpire. The field umpire then can either change the call, or he can just keep it the same. So if there's plays that you feel that maybe they pull their foot, or maybe it was a missed tag, you can also do the same thing for that. But if an umpire just says he thought he was out and you thought he was safe, there's nothing really to argue there. Nothing can really happen. But you always want to make sure you go to the umpire that made the call, and you're going to ask them to then ask their partner for help. You can't go to the home plate umpire and ask for help on your own. You have to go to the field umpire first, ask him. He will then ask for help. So you have to make sure you do it in the right order. If not, they won't override one another unless asked the right way. So you as a coach, you can't just freak out if you thought somebody was safe and just go to the other umpire and be like, did you think it was out? Well, he's not going to say anything because it's not his call. You have to go to the proper umpire, and then they'll make the call that way, because we see that all the time. And if it's done incorrectly or in the wrong order, you're not going to get the help that you need. So make sure you do it the right way. And I know, Coach Steve, when you go to the games, you know, the right way also is to ask the umpires for their names. Yeah. So you're not saying, hey, Blue, you know, you're saying, hey, Mike. He knows your name is Steve. you know his name is Mike, and you call timeout, you do it professionally. Hey, Mike, can you ask help? Can you please ask Dave for help? And then you step back and let them do their thing. And, because you have to deal with them all day long for the next 7 innings. So you want to try to do everything the right way so you handle it professionally, and hopefully they'll, do respect you as well, because
that was going to be my one piece, is just doing it the right way and being respectful, right? These guys, a lot of times in youth baseball and youth softball, they're either volunteers at the Little League level or, they're out there for 5, 6, 7 games throughout the day. And the last thing they need is coaches and parents screaming at them. So, I'll tell my players ahead of time, listen, if we think there's a bad call, we're going to be respectful. I'll go out and ask for help, but we're not going to yell and scream from the dugout. We try to tell our parents there's no need for yelling and screaming from the stands. We'll go out there. We'll handle it professionally. If they get it right, great. If they don't, let's move on. Again, these guys, they're not major league umpires, right? They're going to miss calls sometimes. They're going to make the wrong call. So we just have to make sure from the top down, we respect them, and we make sure that our players and our parents feed off of us. But it's a good question. I think it's tough sometimes to know when and where and really how to go about asking or challenging a call. So, Coach Tommy, that's a good question. We've got another good one here from Coach Kevin. It seems like every weekend the tournaments have different rules. How do you manage your pitchers for 3 or 4 days with limited pitch count? Kevin, that's a good question, man. I'm going through it now because we're playing in a lot of perfect game events in the area, and we start on Thursday and we finish on Monday. So one thing I like to do is I will take a look at the schedule. I'll look at the pitch count rules. For us at the 15U age level, it's 0 to 30 pitches requires no days rest. 31 to 45 requires 1 day rest. 45 to 60 requires 2 days rest. Anything over 65, they're done for the tournament. So what I'll try to do, depending on how many teams make the playoffs, is I'll try to line up my pitchers accordingly. So if I want a player to come back and pitch on Monday in the playoffs, I'll have him pitch on Thursday night and, keep him around 40, 45 pitches. Again, you look at these pitch count rules, but you also have to know your pitchers. You don't want to throw him out there for 50 pitches when he's a kid that after he throws, he's hanging for 2 days, and he's not going to be ready to come back on short rest. But just being smart about it, understanding what you have to do to make the playoffs, and if you have an opportunity, if you're playing a tough team and you need to win the game, well then I'll leave my guy in there. And if he's pitching well, we got to win this game to move on. But I think it's looking at the rules, it's looking at the tournament schedule, as well as just managing your pitchers and also them playing multiple positions. I have 2 pitchers that also catch, so I take into account how many innings they're catching that game, how often they're sitting behind the plate throwing the ball back and forth. It's just really being smart. And I think the pitching regulations are out there for a reason. They do a really good job at managing the pitch counts and the days rest. And we have to just keep a close eye on that, as well as our two-way guys, how much they're throwing from their opposite or other positions on the field. I don't know if you got anything to add to that.
No, that's good. That's good. One of the things I just want to add is for everybody that's watching right now is add questions into the chat box, and we'll do our very best to get to your questions once we get through some of the ones that we weren't able to get to last week. So if there's any questions that you have in there, baseball or softball related, parent related, drill related, make sure you pop them in there, and we'll make sure that we get to them. So do you want me to do the Coach Dominic?
Yep.
So Coach Dominic said, my infielders keep dropping down and throwing sidearm. Do you have any tips on how to get them into the correct throwing position? Coach Dominic, that's a great one. We must have got this asked probably about 15 or 20 times last week of, I have players that are short arming the ball. We have pitchers that are short arming the ball. What can we do? How can we work on changing different arm slots? So one of the things that we like to use is the reaction ball. The reaction ball we really like because it's also the connection ball from TAP. We have these, and we use them a lot. We use them for hitting. We use them for throwing. And what it does is you can take the ball, whether you want to use the connection ball. For some of the little guys, we actually use just a regular dodgeball. And we'll actually put it in their arm like this, and we'll put the ball in their hand, and it forces them to be able to throw the ball without short arming it. So it's easier for me to use this one. So I have the ball in my hand. I come up, and it forces me and allows me to get into this position to then get my throw and then I throw the ball. So whether I'm fielding a ground ball and getting ready, it puts me in the perfect position to throw. You see, if you can see where my body's at, this is how we field the ground ball. I field it with my glove. Boom, I bring it up, and I'm right in a throwing position. And as my body rotates, I'm in a perfect throwing position. So when we're working on arm slots, I can work my arm slot from down here. I can work my arm slot from up here. I can pretty much work on anything. My body is just adjusting with me as I'm going to make my throw. So this is a great thing. The connection ball from TAP is an awesome tool for that. So hope that helps. And it's at any ages. We teach our younger kids how to throw it. You know, there's all different arm slots and different parts of the clock, and my body is actually working with the clock. I don't want to stand tall and throw from down here. I also don't want to start down here and throw up here. So my body, naturally, we're working on throwing from different arm slots when we're throwing. So we do that a ton in baseball and softball. So hopefully that helps with, some short arming or, dropping down when we throw.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add to that was Duke touched on the clock. And I think when we're dealing with infielders, you have to understand that they're going to throw from all different arm slots. When they're throwing on the run, they are going to drop down low. When they field the ball in the hole, they're going to throw from over the top. So Duke had mentioned the clock. I love the clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2, 3. But I think it's also about your player making sure they're in the correct posture when they throw it. So if you've got a guy that's throwing on the run, well, I always tell my guys, we might be throwing on the run from that 3 o'clock arm slot, but my body is tilted, right? So if I stand up straight, I'm still over the top, but I'm just throwing it on the run from this arm slot here. So it's getting your players comfortable throwing from those different arm slots, working on it in practice. And I'd mentioned 2 weeks ago in our show is putting our players on the clock. And what I mean by that is have a coach stand at home plate and get a stopwatch out. And from the time the ball's hit until the time the player actually fields it, until it touches the first baseman's glove, we have to get that ball to first base in under a certain amount of time. And, for different ages, it's going to vary. I like to take, one of the faster guys on the team, time them from home to first, get them on the clock. And now our players know, okay, let's say it's 4.2 seconds. Well, we have 4.2 seconds from the time that ball is batted until we have to get into the first baseman's glove. So your infielders are going to have to work on throwing on the run, throwing from different arm slots, getting rid of it, throwing it off the wrong foot. So, I think the connection ball and the dodgeball drill, they're great drills to get your players to understand that correct arm slot, as well as teaching them, their posture when they're making that move. But great question, Dominic. You want to hop into the live one from Coach Walker?
Yeah, let's see. Where's Coach Walker?
I'm starting a 9U in Virginia. Should I take the kids I know are good or host tryouts just in case? Coach Walker, that's a good one, man. We always will have a list of kids that we have, in mind to make that team. But I think it's great to host a tryout. There's a lot of kids out there that you might not know of, maybe some new kids that move to the area. I would definitely host a tryout. What we like to do is our current players, we don't have them show up for day one of tryouts. We'll have day one of tryouts really to weed out the bad players. And that'll be more of the measurable day to see what kids can do at the plate during batting practice, if they can field the ball, if they can catch fly balls, how they pitch. And then the better players, we invite them back for day 2. So now on day 2, we have our kids that are already on our team currently. We bring in the new guys, and then we play a simulated game and a scrimmage. So we really get to see them in a competitive environment. I would absolutely host a tryout. I think it's important to give those kids an opportunity. Plus, you might find a diamond in the rough that you had no clue that kid even lived in town, and he's new to baseball, but he's a good athlete. But I think finding a way to maybe run 2 days of tryouts, day 1 to weed out the kids that have no shot, and then day 2 to take the kids that or the kids that are currently on your team and run some sort of a game or a simulated game to challenge them, put them in a game-like atmosphere and kind of see where the numbers fall from there. But I think that's a good question.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just trying to get as many people as possible, even to challenge those kids that you may already have on your team to, keep everybody honest. So it's not the same kids and that's it. And it's kind of like, because you're going to get kids that drop off and kids that add on, and people are going to move and you're going to lose kids. So I think it's a great idea.
I always tell our guys too, every time we're on the field, whether or not you've been on our team for 3 or 4 years, you've always got something to prove, right? You don't want kids to ever play comfortable. And what I mean by comfortable is that, I'm the 3-hitter on this team no matter what. And, I had a conversation with our guys last weekend. We were struggling a little bit. And I said, every time we're out here, we're fighting for a job and we're fighting for a spot. Not that we have to play with any added pressure, but we have to play like that kid trying to make the team every time we're on the field. And we have to push ourselves and challenge ourselves to get better and work with one another and push each other and be good teammates. We can't be comfortable and just assume no matter what, I'm going to be the starting shortstop and I'm batting second in the lineup. You have to, if you're the guy fighting for the job, you're going to push those guys ahead of you. And if you're the guy, that's batting cleanup and you're the best player on the team, well, your job is to separate yourself and continue to get better. So I think that's awesome. And you always want to, put pressure on those kids that are already on the team, because there are a lot of hungry guys out there that are trying to fight for that job.
We got a question from Joey Bass.
Joey Bass.
I have 2 teams, 6 and 8. Both teams struggle a lot with stopping the ball at the bases. Base hits to the outfield and the balls are thrown into the bases, and our infielders are stabbing at the ball with gloves and not moving their feet. I've done drills for days and hammer it home consistently, but I know a lot of it is fear-based. Any ideas or good drills to help with this? So yeah, I think one of the things, Joey, is to get the kids to understand their other responsibilities. So on a base hit to, say, left field, and they're throwing it into second, making sure that the right fielder's backing up the throw, the first baseman's over there backing up the throw. So if anything is missed, those runners can't advance to the next base. Another thing that you can do is take a bucket from the outfield and just throw balls in to the second baseman, short hopping balls, throwing them right at him, throwing them left and right, and getting them to understand that I don't just have to, my feet aren't glued near the base where I just catch and tag. I have to move my feet and don't let the ball get past me. Because a lot of it is fear-based, especially if the ball's going to short hop them. Kids don't know how to catch short hops. They kind of just run to the ball and kind of get stuck. So I think you taking a bucket of balls or you taking a tennis racket and some smush balls is another great way. Take their gloves off and just smush ball, racquetball shot at them. So they're working on catching, moving their feet, and doing those sort of things. I think another thing at the age of 6 to 8-year-old level is working on tagging. We don't work on tagging enough. And then the kids get older and it's like kids are just dropping balls on tags, or they don't know how to work the short hop properly, or how to tag when it's going to their left or to their right. So I think that's another great drill. Coach Steve has a drill where he puts up 3 bases and they're kind of staggered. And the fielder actually comes up to the first base. He tags to his left. He runs up to the next one. He's backdoor tagging, and then he runs up to the next one, and he's tagging again. So what that does is it gets your players to move their feet. They're running up to a base. They're catching it as they're moving, because so many times when we do practice it, the kids are stopped. We throw a ball, they catch and tag. But that's not realistic on a steal or on a real play. A lot of times I'm just getting to the bag, and I got to be able to move my feet and be able to adjust and adapt and react to those balls. So having them run up and you're throwing balls to where they're catching and tagging, then they're catching and tagging on this side, and then they're catching and tagging on that side, you're able to get them to be more athletic, and you're able to throw them in more difficult and challenging places like that. So I think that, those are some good drills. Do you have anything else?
Yeah. The only thing I would add is, maybe it's a little bit of fear with the runner sliding in as well, right? I would say that probably the 2 things without me seeing it are bad throws from the outfielder. So, you get the short in between awkward hops, and maybe they're just, nervous of the guy coming in hard and sliding. So one thing we like to do, whether we're on turf or we use a sliding mat, is we'll set up situations where we actually have somebody running in and sliding. And you can do it like a combo drill. You're teaching one group how to run hard into a base and how to slide correctly. You can have one group out in the outfield working on either throwing it straight through, hitting the cutoff man, or practicing giving your infielder that nice long one hop. And then you've got the group of players standing on the base saying, absolutely not, this ball can't get by, right? I don't care if we have to body it up. Our number 1 priority is don't let the ball go by us. And our number 2 priority is obviously catch and make the tag when we're talking 6 to 8-year-old age groups. But letting them know that, you got to move your feet, you got to body it up. It's almost like a ground ball at that point. You get a bad in-between hop, and some of the fields we play on, you're not getting ideal hops all the time. We're not always on turf, but, no matter what, this ball can't get by, or it's a run and we lose. But I like comboing it up, and then having the kids rotate through. So the group that was tagging now goes to base running. The group that was base running goes to the outfield. The outfield group goes to second base. This way they're working on 3 different, skill sets all in one drill. But I think Duke's point about using the 3 bases, working on moving your feet and making tags, different angles with guys sliding in, I think it's huge.
Here we got a good one, Coach Steve. Robert Alvarado, do you guys have any good tips on how to keep the kiddos from being intimidated by the looks from other teams? Sometimes they look bigger, faster, etc. And once they get down, they can't seem to get out of the slump. We got asked this one last week, Rob. I think, and Coach Steve answered it great. I think the mind game of baseball is just like with every sport, getting the kids to be fearless and to have confidence and how to build confidence and almost like a routine so that they are intimidating the other teams, and building that in kind of builds that self-esteem, that confidence factor. Because there's sometimes when you walk on the field and you're like, oh my gosh, look at just the way they warm up. Look at the way the coaches, look at the way their team presents themselves. It's almost intimidating, like, gosh, look at these guys. Well, you want them to do the same thing when they come into your house and they're playing your guys, how you're in a line, how you're warming up together, how you're throwing together, how you're stretching together, the way you do your infield, outfield, the way you field your ground balls, fly balls, the way you have everything organized and structured, and all that stuff matters. And you want to build that into your ball club so that you're the one doing the intimidating and not being intimidated. So,
yeah, Coach, I think that's an awesome question. I have a good example. I had a softball lesson yesterday. She's an incoming freshman in high school, and she plays on a top team nationally, and she's going down to Atlanta this weekend. And I asked her, how's the schedule look? And she said that she was nervous. She's like, man, the first 4 teams we play, they're all ranked in the top 20. I said, well, where are you guys ranked? She said, oh, we're 33rd in the country. It's like, well, what's the difference? There's really not that big of a difference. And maybe they did a few more events and they got ranked higher, but you're going to psych yourself out before you even get there because these teams are ranked or they're, nationally in the polls ahead of you. Well, you guys are 33rd in the country. You guys need to go down there and act like the 33rd ranked team in the country and believe in yourselves and compete. We go through it with my group. Guys will psych themselves out before we even get there based on a ranking or based on their record for this season so far. None of that matters. And I think, Coach, before the game, you got to send the message that you guys are going to go play a team. They get dressed the same way you do. They warm up the same way you do. They're all the same age as you. And if you guys psych yourselves out or don't believe in yourselves before the game even starts, you have no chance. So, one more example for you. We're playing in a big tournament a couple weeks ago, and we were playing a team that was undefeated. They were ranked, top whatever in the country, and they were all bigger than us. They were stronger than us. They had pitchers that threw harder. And the message that I sent to our team before the game was they're coming into this game assuming that they are going to roll over us. And they're not worried about playing you guys, and they're not going to be afraid. They're going to show up and they're going to give it to you, but they're not going to respect you. And I think it lit a fire under our guys to, go out there and give it all you got. Because at the end of the day, what's the worst case scenario? You're going to lose. But if you go out there and play with a chip on your shoulder and you play with some confidence, if you lose it, at least at the end of the day, you can go home and say, man, you know what? We competed today. I was on time. I was aggressive. I battled out there. But if you go up to home plate, it's the same thing if you're facing a guy throwing hard. If you go up to home plate and you're nervous and you don't want to get beat and you don't want to strike out, bad things are going to happen. But if you can find a way during your routine, like Duke mentioned in warmups, to visualize and prepare as if I'm going up there and I'm going to take 3 healthy swings at this guy and I'm going to give myself a shot. If you fail, you fail. But if you go up there nervous and you're like, man, I just don't want to strike out, well, then you don't have a shot anyway, right? You might as well leave your bat in the dugout and just, hope to get walked. So, I think it starts with us just motivating our guys, helping them to believe in one another, and the we over me mentality. It's going to take a group effort today, and everybody's going to have to do something to chip in. Everybody's going to have to help out in one way or another. And we're going to get beat at some points, and then other days we're going to show up and we're going to compete. But we have to find a way to do something to help our team win today. And I think it starts with us motivating them.
Well, to follow up with that, I think we got a great one here. Paul Santiago. And this was his follow-up question from last week. I had asked for advice regarding kids who hang their heads due to self-perceived failure. Long story short, I changed my approach with these kids using a few of your suggestions, and the usual suspects kept their heads high and played great ball. All 11 kids were dialed in and played some of the best ball of the season. Tears and negativity are truly contagious, but so is confidence and positivity. And that's exactly what we talked about, being positive, being confident, helping build them up. Making sure that, hey, you're going to see a couple tears, but get your guys to stay on the fence and keep on cheering their teammates and watch how quick those tears go away and you become a teammate, instead of someone that's bringing the energy down. you're helping elevate the energy, and that helps you as a player when you're feeling kind of stinky or crappy. It lifts you up and kind of gets you back on track much faster. So I'm glad you thanks for that comment, Coach Danielle. I'm glad we helped you out last week. We appreciate that. So Jason McLean says, we have some players that are lacking effort and others that go all out. At this age, is it okay to reward those players that go all out with more playing time? Is that motivating factor for this players that are lacking effort to see those other players getting more playing time? I don't want to hurt their confidence.
Coach Jason, that's a good one, man. And I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think regardless of the player or their ability level, we have to hold everyone accountable. And what I mean by that is if I've got the best player on my team that hangs his head or throws his equipment or pops up to the pitcher and walks down the first baseline, well, I have to take him out of the game. I have to sit him for an inning and punish him for those mental mistakes, right? I always tell my guys, you're going to make physical errors. That's okay. But if you do the mental, if you have mental mistakes and you have attitude problems, or, your effort's not there because you're comfortable batting fourth and you think you're the best player on the team, well, what kind of a message am I sending to the other guys on the team? It's basically giving free rein to everyone on the team. It's okay to act this way when you fail, or it's okay to act this way when you're having a bad day. And it's not. I think that, you have to use the guys that are maybe bottom tier of the team. You have to push them and reward them with playing time, because it lets them know, man, I do have a shot. I do have a shot at cracking the lineup or maybe playing more innings on defense. And all I got to do is work harder. And it's also going to push your better players on the team to, like I mentioned earlier, separate yourself, right? Because you might start the season as the best player on the team, but that doesn't mean 6 months from now you're still going to be the best player. And you almost have to set a goal. All right, I'm the best player on the team right now. Well, I want to be this much better by the end of the season. Right? If I get, lackadaisical or just content with where I'm at, well, now everybody else is going to start to catch me and close that gap. So I think it's, it's setting goals before the season, as well as having a conversation with them on the side and saying, you know what, you're one of the leaders out here. You're one of the better players on the team. Guys are going to feed off your energy. We talked about it last week, positive or negative energy. They're going to feed off you. And, it starts from us as coaches penalizing those players for the things that have no excuse, the effort, the attitude, being a bad teammate, that kind of stuff. And, you have to punish them and sit them down for an inning and have that conversation. Otherwise, it's going to get contagious quick, and you're going to see more and more guys start to feed off them and follow them in the ways that they act. Nice.
Well, this is a question from Sean on YouTube. Coach Sean asks, how do you choose positions for each player for a new team before the season even starts? Hey, Coach Sean, that's a great question. What we do is when we have our tryouts, we have a skills day, and we also have an evaluation day. And the evaluation day might consist of them running home to first. So we're seeing who's fast, we're ball exit speeds, arm velos, those sort of things. But then we have our skills day where we're in a game, we're doing an infield, outfield, we're moving players all around, and they're actually playing a game. And then in the next day, we'll do the same thing, infield, outfield again. So if there's any adjustments or changes we need to see, or we need to see more of, we can then do that during the game time or during the infield, outfield time. Because like you said, you're going to have guys, they try out, they make the team, but what position do they play? So trying to capture all that information as early as possible is going to help with that. And then it's up to you as coaches and a coaching staff to then develop those kids in those different positions to where they can play, making sure you have enough pitching and making sure you have enough catching, because you don't want to pick a team and not know where the players even play. You need to make sure you have 7 or 8 pitchers. You need to make sure you have 2 catchers. You need to, or else then you just have baseball players, but you don't have an actual team. So I think that's something that's very important during the tryout process, is that you kind of have your board set to who's going to play where or who plays where, because that's going to help dictate who you choose for the team. I hope that helps.
That's really good stuff. The only thing I would add is, early in the season, I try to shuffle guys around as much as possible, especially in games where, I have the opportunity to. So I might have 3 shortstops, and I have one playing third, one playing short, one playing second, and I just rotate them every inning, just to give them an opportunity. And before you know it, you'll start to know, okay, he's my best shortstop. He does a better job at second. That guy might end up having to move to the outfield, but giving them an opportunity to fail and giving them the chance because you might show up and have 3 stud shortstops at tryouts, and they all think they can play shortstop, but there's only one shortstop position on the field. So, letting them know, all right, we're going to move around a little bit. We're going to shuffle the lineup around. We're going to give kids a chance. And then before you know it, you're going to start to get a feel for where those guys play. I also like to have an open door policy. And I had a kid on my 13U team that signed up as a third baseman. He also played some outfield. And I had a really good third baseman that was playing there already. And he ended up playing a little bit more outfield during the season. And I think, maybe 3-4 weeks into the season, he came up to me and asked, he said, "Hey, coach, I play third a lot for my middle school. I really want to develop as a third baseman. Can I get more innings at third?" And of course, I love when kids come to me and ask, can I get an opportunity to prove myself at third, or can I, get some innings on the mound? It shows initiative on their part. It shows that they want to grow. And sometimes we as coaches, we get, repetitive, or we kind of get stuck into the same routine where the lineup looks the same every day. And, I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I just hadn't put him at third because he was doing such a good job in the outfield. And, I moved him over to third. I'm getting him a couple innings there. This way, these players get an opportunity to develop and understand the game as a whole.
Let's go. We got that. That's awesome. Let's rock out another question. Jay Co. YouTube said, "I'm trying to help my team develop arm strength. What are your thoughts on the long toss programs, and what drills do you use?" Well, we have an awesome pitching course. Mikey Nicorak created that and designed. He's a first-round pick with the Colorado Rockies, and there's everything in there from throwing mechanics to arm bands to arm care to workout programs to pre and post throwing programs. There's a long toss program. There's it's packed with all kinds of not just pitching information, but it's throwing and pitching information. But we also do a lot of stuff with Jaeger bands. He's got an awesome long toss program. He's probably been doing it for 25 years. And long toss is a great way if you have space and you don't have some of the equipment now that they have out there. But long toss programs are great for arm strength. Pitchers have been doing it forever. Some people believe more in the plyo balls or think that's easier or use that. Some believe in the long toss. I think there's a time and a place and an age for any of it. So I think that it's all helpful, but we'll make sure that we try to put something in the chat, about a specific long toss program that you can follow with your team. That'll really help you out. Also, you can check out the pitching program as well, because it's loaded with some awesome stuff. So hope that helps with that. You have anything to add?
No, that's a good one. I think it all depends on the age of the player, how long you want to go out, or how long you want to throw from a certain distance. But I think the arm care and I think the overall strength side of things are also very important, right? You might have a kid that's just not there structurally yet. He's a smaller kid. He's not very strong yet. Well, I think sometimes maybe just going out there and long tossing all day might not help as much as trying to get a little bit stronger, maybe focusing on some of the arm care stuff that Duke mentioned earlier. I think it's a well-rounded approach as opposed to just doing one program. I think it's getting stronger. It's, long tossing, but doing it in a smart way, right? If you're playing 4 or 5 games a week, well, we shouldn't be out there long tossing 4 or 5 days a week on top of playing 3 games on a Saturday, 2 games on a Sunday, and then 2 midweek games. So I think it's just being smart about it, but I think there's a lot of information out there. And like Duke said, we're going to put some stuff in the chat for you that'll hopefully give you some more insight into it.
We got another question. Jay Coach says this is one we get all the time as well. Also, do you think that the 11U is too young to lock kids into one position?
I would say definitely. I think at 11U, you give kids an opportunity to learn the game and develop a baseball IQ by moving them around, right? It's one thing to have maybe a big first baseman that can't really move. Well, he shouldn't be playing shortstop at 11U, but I think shuffling kids around, playing some outfield, playing some infield, teaching kids how to catch, giving everybody an opportunity how to pitch. You're going to learn the game and have develop a better baseball IQ, understanding where to back up, what certain positions have to do. Because, I was a shortstop my whole life. I got to college, I played third, I pitched a little bit. I ended up playing first base because there was a stud third baseman there my freshman year. So being able to play multiple positions is only going to make your value that much higher as you get older. You're gonna add a lot more value to the team being able to play multiple spots. So I think at 11U, understanding how to play some outfield, some infield, maybe a little bit of first, pitching, catching. It's just gonna help that player develop as a well-rounded baseball player or a softball player much quicker than maybe just saying you're a third baseman and you're only going to play third base.
Good. Yeah, I think a lot of coaches do that too early because they want their kids to get better faster, and then the same kids are playing the same exact positions, and maybe they get bored, or then they don't truly understand any other positions. So
yeah, or they get older, they go into their freshman year of high school, and there's a first team all-state catcher ahead of them, and all they've ever done their whole life is just catch. Well, now what? You're either going to sit for 3 years, or you better learn how to play first or do something. So I think playing multiple positions is only going to add value to that player.
This is a good one, especially since we're talking about tournaments and that sort of topic. Is Chuck Barazinski says, I coach an 11U team, and I noticed during tournaments if we've had a long break between games, we come out extremely flat. Do you have any words of advice? Yes, I think what we do with our teams, Oz, we'll play different kind of games. We'll play 2-ball where you're taking 2 balls and everybody gets into a circle. Like, you're trying to just keep them mentally focused. Now, it depends on how long you're talking. Is it just like a 1-game break? So you have games at like 2 and 6. So you have like an hour and a half break, or you're talking, you have like a 6 to 8 hour break and you're playing a game, you're going home and you're bringing all the kids back again. If you're talking about the smaller break, I think it's, communicating with the kids. I think it's having the proper equipment as well, to where maybe you have some smush balls, you have some wiffle balls, so you can take a little BP, you can play a little wiffle ball game in the outfield, you can play a little 6-on-6, and just let the kids keep on playing and just doing something fun, opposed to leaving the field, going back to the field, and like it's almost like starting from scratch, but the 2-ball games are always fun. We have a lot of like fun little like in between games that we play with the guys that just kind of keeps their mind in it, their focus, kind of keeps them together, because that's easy. They always say it, even in pro ball, it's hard to win the doubleheader. You can come out and smoke the team game 1, and then the next game you get smoked, and you're like, how did that just happen? It's just staying focused, and but I think that finding some games in between is a good way. What else do you have, Steve-O?
I think anytime you have a break in between games, you have to approach that next game the same way you did the first one. So I love the idea, if you have a big break of playing 2-ball, maybe playing pepper, doing something fun to keep the kids engaged, but don't just give them a 4-hour break and then just show up and roll out, show and go for first pitch. If we have a break in between games, we'll come back, we'll still do our batting practice, we'll still go out, we'll do our dynamic warm-up, we'll still do our throwing program, we'll prep ourselves as if we're playing game 1 that day. I think it just adds structure, and it adds a little bit of added focus to those players. I struggle sometimes because, we play win in advance. So, we'll play a 10 a.m. game. If we win at 10, we play at 12. If we win at 12, we play at 2. And then you move on that way. And sometimes it's tough just because you're rolling from game to game. The kids don't really get a chance to eat or take a breather. So that's a struggle. But I think having the breaks in between, finding something to keep the kids engaged. Don't go eat a cheeseburger and sit in the car for 2 hours. Go eat, grab some food, grab some water, come back, and we're going to go through our warm-up and get ready for that next game.
I have a good one here from Coach Jason. He says, on our 13U practice, what can I do to help the kids not lack effort or make mistakes? Or do I discipline the kids? Or what can I do to help out more? I think that, if you have the kids in a circle, right? It's almost like if you have the kids in a circle, you have the one kid that's like picking grass or playing with Johnny or doing this or that, and you're constantly talking to the kid that's doing it wrong and giving him the attention, opposed to Johnny having a perfect baseball knee and his eyes are on you and he's paying attention, and you praise that kid. Watch how fast all the other kids will get on the baseball knee and put their eyes on you, opposed to you talking to the kid that's doing something wrong. So try your best to find things that the players that are doing it right, and praise the ones doing it right. You'll see way more kids jumping on that bandwagon than constantly telling and picking out all the mistakes and all the things that are being done wrong. And because that's what's going to lower the confidence, and the effort level is going to go down, because it's almost like, well, I'd rather not try than to try and fail. I'd rather just not try at all, because then I can't fail. Even though we as coaches realize that's failing every time. If a kid goes up and watches all 3 strikes and he strikes out, well, in his mind sometimes, well, at least I didn't swing and miss. Well, you still struck out and you're out. So they sometimes process it way differently than how we see it. So I think that, praising the kids that are diving and that are laying out for balls. Hey, Johnny, great effort. I love the dirty uniform. Well, watch how many kids start diving and wanting to get that same, hey, Mikey, good job. And work on those drills, work on diving plays, work on great catches. And the more you work on those, the kids, that's what builds confidence. So I think that it comes down to more of praising the good instead of constantly knocking down the bad.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's spot on right there. I think, when you say lack effort or make mistakes, I don't know if you're talking about mental mistakes, if you're talking about physical mistakes. For us, certain things that we struggle with during games, I will point those out before our practice, and I'll make sure that I take notes during the game so that we focus on them in practice. So I'll put them in positions to fail. And like I mentioned earlier with either the stopwatch or, I'll actually do live simulated games and put pressure on them as if it's game time, because I think it's our job as coaches to push our guys and challenge them and push them to failure in practice. And then when the game time comes, we kind of just let them go do their thing and play. But I think playing or practicing game speed and practicing as if, we got something on the line, as opposed to just taking batting practice, getting a couple ground balls and getting out of there is important.
I like this one. We'll get to Joey's in a second, but Coach Todd Cabrera says, I'm a coach of a travel ball I've also run my own program for 7 years now. I've noticed in my time that you have kids that just love the game and are all about baseball. Then you have the kids who just want to say they're on a baseball team, who have the ability, but just don't want to put in the work to become a better player, and they end up hurting the team. How do you address these kids or get them on the same page of the kids, as the kids that are already better? Also, being from a smaller town, there's not that many options. I think that's good. I think that you're going to get just that when you have a baseball team, right? You're going to get the kids that are all in, diehards. I think every team is like that, unless you have a nationally renowned team that you're handpicking a kid from every state or this or that to where, you're getting that. But then you're going to have the kids that just want to be on the team and have fun and play, and they really like playing, and they don't put in as much time as the next guy or the next kid but I think that one of the ways that you can help them is by, going over what your team culture is, going over what your expectations of them are, and also doing a lot of team-oriented type of exercises, drills, competitions, to where they're working together as a team. And a lot of times you'll see that the kids that are like all in will wear off on those kids that are kind of like doing it kind of because they enjoy it, but don't really put the time in. Well, a lot of times by putting them together like that and they rub together, you'll see some of the kids like, wow, I can put in more, or I can do more. And you have to do it in a positive way, or else you're going to almost have like oil and vinegar. You're going to have the kids that are like all in and the kids that are kind of like this. And if you as a coach are like, yeah, I have some kids that are all in and some kids that aren't. And, the way that we talk to the team is very important as well. You want to make it as it's your team. It's a whole team. It's we're doing this, we're doing that. Here's how we're doing all of it, and getting them together to where you do have a really good culture. But I think about the more you can put them together and have them do things together and challenge them maybe 6-on-6 or 5-on-5, and they're doing obstacle course stuff and baseball skill type stuff, it's going to elevate the level of play to where kids are going to want to try harder for each other in those situations.
Yeah, Coach Todd, I think that's an awesome question, man. I think, like he said, like Duke said, any team is going to have the good players that are all diehards, the group of kids that just love being there, and then maybe the kids that just like hanging out with their buddies. And you're in a little bit of a predicament because you don't have a huge, base to pick from. But I really like sitting down with those players, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes before the season starts, as well as after the season, and put some ownership on them and ask them, what are your goals for this season? What are some things that you want to accomplish? What are some things that you want to accomplish as a team? And have them write it down. And I'll tell our guys, the course of the season, it flies by pretty quickly. So if you write down, all right, these are my 3 goals for this season, you pin them up on your wall at home. Well, now every day when you leave, you got to look at those. And you have to ask yourself, am I working to achieve that goal? Or, was I just blowing smoke when I told the coach that, I really wanted to be a better 2-strike hitter this year, or I really wanted to improve my strength, and almost help them create a plan or a roadmap for how am I going to achieve these goals, and how am I going to be a better baseball player by the end of the season than I am right now. and put some ownership on them. And then you touch base at the end of the year and you have another 10, 15-minute conversation with them, and you ask them, you say, how do you think you did with those goals this year? And, you put ownership on them as opposed to just, going through the season and, enjoying it and then, just get ready for tryouts next year. So I'm a big believer in setting goals, writing them down and looking at them every day, before you get to work or before you make up your mind whether or not you want to play video games that day or go over to the field and work out with your buddies.
So we have we'll pretty much finish it with this one. This we'll kind of go back and forth and talk a little bit about this topic. Can you talk more about your hitting approach for 8-year-olds, the philosophy, the lingo, etc.? Everyone with a YouTube channel these days is an expert hitting guru all of a sudden, and it's hard for parents to decipher quality instruction from a money grab. Well, I think that's true, and I think that's interesting because everyone wants to talk about hitting and put their philosophies. And you're watching some guys on YouTube, and then you watch the MLB Network, and people are talking about all these different things. And I had a question down here from the other day that Steve and I wrote down. A guy came into our facility, and he had a 9-year-old son, and he said, "What type of launch angle do you guys teach?" And we're like, and I just listened to him like, "What do you mean by that?" Obviously, I knew what he meant, but I wanted to understand more of what he was really asking. So he's like, "Yeah, everyone's talking about launch angle. Like, what kind of launch angle do you teach?" And a launch angle is a type of angle in which the ball is hit. So every ball you hit has a launch angle. So whether you hit a ground ball, a fly ball, it's pop-up, everything has angles to it. So when you're trying to teach players how to crush line drives and barrel balls, that's what you're trying to teach. So I got some of this stuff off the internet, and it said a ground ball is less than 10 degrees. A line drive is between 10 and 25 degrees. A fly ball is 25 to 50 degrees, and a pop-up is greater than 50. The average big league launch angle is 11.83. So it's a line drive, 11.83. Former American League MVP Josh Donaldson, his launch angle in 2017 when he won the MVP was 13 degrees. So you're talking a rocket line drive, right? And if you're swinging on the big field and you're hitting the ball under 80 miles an hour, those fly balls that are over 25 are going up, and they're only going as far as they can. Those guys on TV are hitting the ball 115 miles an hour. So that same 25-degree launch angle at 115 miles an hour is getting launched over the fence. A 70-mile-an-hour launch angle at that is barely clearing the outfield. So it's like you have to be careful with, if you're teaching an 8-year-old how to hit a ball like this and everything he's doing is popping up, well, it might look good in the batting cage, but then you go on the field and everything's a pop up to the infield. So trying to take the ball and take the bat and trying to smoke line drives and hitting them on the barrel and hitting good line drives that are getting fired to the back of the net. I also like to say where the L screen is. The top part of the L screen, if you're smoking line drives into that, that's about a 15-degree launch angle, which is a line drive. So if you're wearing out the top part of the L screen, that's a good hit. If you're hitting the ball in the bottom of the ground, can they still be hits? Yeah. A ground ball can still go through the infield. It can still be a hit. The key is that you're trying to hit the ball hard. And so when a guy says, what launch angle do you teach? It's a guy that doesn't know much about hitting because every ball has a launch angle. We're trying to teach the line drive. It's 10 to 25 degrees, whatever, and we're trying to put that in a kid's head, and having them think about, I wonder what my launch angle was. It's just a metric. It's something that you're trying to attain a line drive. Nowadays, they say 15 degrees, and that is a line drive. So
I think it's important, too, that you have to listen to the players talk, and you have to listen to their thought process at the plate and what they're feeling. I hear a lot real versus feel. So what do you feel like you're doing versus what are you really doing up there? And, for me, I was a player that I just tried to hit backspin line drives right at the second baseman. I listened to Ken Griffey Jr., probably one of the best home run hitters of all time, thinking about hitting the top half of the baseball and trying to hit a low line drive up the middle. I'm sure you guys have all seen Mike Trout. He does high tee before the game, and he thinks very direct. And you watch these guys do drills that don't look like their in-game swing. So even though they might be thinking straight down, Barry Bonds, best home run hitter of all time, thought down, right? You watch him do some top hand stuff, and you listen to these guys talk, and what they are really doing versus what they feel like they're doing is completely different. So, we can't teach every hitter to think the same way or to feel the same thing. We can teach certain body movements that are key and crucial to a swing, getting to a balanced launch position, keeping your bat in the hitting zone for a long time. I think everybody's different. So, when I hear questions like, what kind of a launch angle do you teach? Or do you teach the turn the barrel method? Well, it all depends on that player. So I need to get in that player's head first, understand what they're thinking about, understand what they're feeling, understanding where their miss is in games, and then just developing a confident hitter. So I think Duke touched on that perfectly. And Joey, to answer the first part about your question about what is your hitting approach for 8-year-olds, I think the biggest thing with 8-year-olds is they have to be on time and they have to be aggressive, right? You're 8. You're not going to hit a lot of homers. You're not going to leave the yard, but you have to find a way to get yourself on time and take good aggressive swings, right? That's with no strikes. That's with 1 strike. Now with 2 strikes, our goal is to do whatever we can to extend that at bat 1 more pitch. And it's something that my 15-year-old team was struggling with. We did a great job of it weekend 1. And then the last 2 weeks, we struggled a little bit. We're taking borderline pitches. We're blaming the umpire. I think that was down or that was outside. And regardless of where we thought that pitch was, the umpire called it a strike. And it was way too close to take it for strike 3. So last night at practice, we got in the batting cages. We did our warm-up rounds. And then we did 0-2 counts. How long can you stay in the cage? How many balls can you foul off? And before you know it, the guys are outside the cage cheering each other on. Oh, I just fouled off 11 straight pitches. That's an awesome at bat. So, when you're talking to your team, when we have no strikes, we're trying to hammer a line drive somewhere. We're going to be on time. We're going to be aggressive. When we have a strike, it's the same thing. We're still up there. We're trying to hammer it. We're trying to be aggressive. And when we get to 2 strikes, whatever I got to do, I'm going to extend this pitch extend this at bat 1 more pitch. I'm going to make this pitcher work for it. And then you start to get that culture of just tough hitters, right? On time, aggressive. That would be my best piece of advice for managing 8-year-olds. Obviously, if you have kids with swing flaws, you can work with it on the side. But I really don't like the, teach everybody to feel and do and act the same exact way in the batter's box. I think, talking to them individually and developing an individual routine for your guys and their flaws and, understanding what makes them tick. Some guys, our cleanup hitter, I asked him last night, he came in for a lesson and he has been crushing the ball. He's got about 15 doubles. And I asked him last night in our lesson, what are you thinking about, man? Like, where's your head at right now? What are you thinking about up in the batter's box? He goes, man, I'm just trying to swing as hard as I can. Perfect. I'm not trying to change anything. The kid's crushing the ball. Like, if that works for him, great. Other kids might say, well, I'm just trying to hit a hard ground ball up the middle. Great. Other kids might say, I'm trying to hit a homer. If it's working, it's working. And I'm not going to tell you have to change anything. So I think it's really important to understand the individual, understand their thought process, what their real versus feel is, and develop individual routines for them that way. But I think that's an awesome question. In 8-year-olds, it's being on time, it's being aggressive, it's believing themselves, and having fun.
Awesome. I think that was a solid hour right there. Solid 55 minutes. Next week we're not sure of the time. We have tournaments, we have things going on in Cooperstown, so we're trying to lock in the time for next week. We'll make sure that it's on our Facebook and on our YouTube channel, so you'll know exactly what time it is. We hope you enjoyed the show today. Thanks for joining us. Next week we'll have more topics on development, how to handle parents, parenting issues, running efficient practices, all that stuff. Keep the questions coming. Make sure you add them in the comments below. We'll make sure that we add them to next week's show. And just always remember to go out and dominate the diamond today. Coach Duke, Coach Steve, we're out.